let's maybe give it a minute and then you can take it away, Mary.
Welcome, welcome. Come on in, come on in. We will be starting shortly. Glad you are joining us tonight. Give it 15 more seconds and we are going to get started. All righty. Well, welcome again and good evening, everyone. I am Mary Gertner. I am president of Women of the 7th Congressional District on the city's proud West Side. And it is my honor to welcome you to tonight's forum. Just want to start by saying for many decades, my community has been victimized by police brutality, driving while Black, moms having to have the talk with their sons about what to do if you get pulled over by the police, and of course, the no-show of police in certain communities. Well, unbeknownst to many of us, there were two great organizations out there that was fighting the good fight: CPAC Council, the Civilian Police Accountability Council, and GAPA, the Grassroots Alliance for Police Accountability, out there fighting the good fight, trying to tell us, hey, listen, we can hold these institutions accountable. And lo and behold, they were successful in holding the city council accountable. And now we have what we all know now as the ECPS ordinance, where we are very excited about what February 28th is going to bring to Chicagoans. It's going to end that bad behavior and bad practice of certain communities being less served. And so this is a historic election that's coming up in our communities, where we will be electing representatives from across the city of Chicago and 22 districts throughout the city as well. And tonight, this forum is all about us. It's about equipping us with knowledge, equipping us with the data that will show us how significant February 28th will be and how powerful and impactful we will be, because guess what? Our voices will be in the room, according to those officials that we elect throughout the 22 districts. And we will start rebuilding that relationship that's so important between community and police and stuff. So just a few housekeeping details before I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator. One is, please keep yourself muted during the duration of this event so we don't hear any background noises. During the panel discussion, please feel free to post any questions in the chat room on Zoom or the comments section on YouTube, and they will certainly get those questions to the panelists for answering if time permits. Now, it is let me back it up a little bit. Promote the Vote is a nonpartisan coalition of over 30 organizations that provide educational content and programming to increase voter turnout. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight, for investing in our community safety to learn about Chicago's new police district. Now, it is my honor, my pleasure, and my privilege to introduce to you a lifelong activist who's been at the forefront of many human and civil rights issues affecting Chicago. She's organized and served as co-chair of the Justice Coalition of Greater Chicago, which fought police and prosecutorial, I'm so excited, misconduct in Chicago that led to the prosecution of, I even hate to say his name, the notorious police commander, John Burge. and the abolishment of the Illinois death penalty. I'm talking about Ms. Jane Ramsey, a longtime executive director of the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs, combating poverty, racism, and anti-Semitism in partnership with Chicago's diverse community. Ms. Ramsey is the founder and president of Just Venture Capital, LLC, which fosters strategic change, a board member of Chicago Women Take Action, and chairs our Police Accountability and Gun Violence Prevention Committee. Ms. Ramsey is also a lecturer and field coordinator at the University of Chicago, Crown Family School of Social Work, Policy, and Practice. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm turning it over to the one and only Ms. Jane Ramsey.
Thank you, Mary. Longtime good friend, and so grateful that you're here with us. And with thanking all of you for joining us today. This is a terrific opportunity for us to learn how we can make the Community Commission for Public Safety and the District Council successful. You know, as Mary mentioned, two coalitions came together of community organizations and activists who worked for years to get us to this point in time. And now it's in our hands. It's in our hands to participate in the upcoming elections and to stay involved after the elections. And so much is at stake, including having safe communities and putting an end to the tragedies, the many tragedies Chicago has long endured. From the police torture of the notorious police commander John Burge, to the murder and cover-up of the murder of Laquan McDonald, to the everyday injustices being endured even today, even now as we meet throughout Chicago's communities. We are fortunate to have wonderful community activists with us today to help us understand and to work with the Community Commission for Public Safety. I'm happy to introduce our first two panelists, Jackie Baldwin and Reverend Damon Smith. Jackie Baldwin is the Director of Anti-Racism and Equity at the Jewish Council on Urban Affairs at JCUA. She's a lifelong Chicagoan. She joined JCUA's staff in 2019. She's the co-founder of Kol Or Jews of Color Caucus. She previously led JCUA's Fair Tax campaign before taking on the work of the Community Safety Committee and its campaigns for empowering communities for public safety, as well as the Treatment Not Trauma campaign. Great to have you here, Jackie. Reverend Damon Smith has been an advocate for over 25 years, fighting for equity within all bodies of the city of Chicago, specifically in the areas of public safety, education, and economic investment. This commitment has brought Damon to the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability, where he serves as Deputy Director for the District Councils. So Damon, we're so grateful to have you here and to have you both. And I turn it now to the two of you.
Thank you, Jane.
Good evening. So thank you all for joining us this evening as we talk about the Get Out the Vote initiative for this February. For the first time, we will vote for district councils on our ballot. This new position was created, as it was mentioned earlier, by Empowering Communities for Public Safety Ordinance. Now, this ordinance is built on 4 pillars. Those pillars are public safety, community, trust, and front-end accountability. Next slide. The ECPS ordinance sets up 2 new structures. The first is the citywide community commission, which you may have frequently heard already as the CCPSA. And the second tier is district councils, which Damon will be talking about in a little bit. Next slide. Now, of these 2 tiers, we mentioned the commission. An interim commission has already been appointed, and they were appointed August 29th of 2022 and have already begun having their meetings. So now I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Damon Smith to talk a little bit more about the district councils and the powers of the commission. Reverend Damon.
Sure. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here this evening. I'm going to pick it up here. One thing that was not mentioned, that the interim commission, it is an interim commission, and it will be in place until the permanent commission is established by the district councils. And so we can go to slide number 5. Just want to throw that in. Thank you. As mentioned earlier, there are 22, well, we didn't mention, there are 22 police districts here in the city of Chicago, and the district councils, there will be 3 members of the district councils, and each district council, those positions, each 3 of those positions will be elected positions here in the city of Chicago. So every police district will elect 3 individuals to be members of the district councils. The qualifications to be a member of the district councils have been described in great detail in the city ordinance, the ECPS ordinance. The election will be run by the Board of Elections, just like anyone else running for office here in the city of Chicago. The first election of the district councils will take place on Tuesday, February 28th, during the time when we vote for our alders, our mayors, treasurer, and city clerk. And then after that, the elections will take place every 4 years. The purpose of the district councils are to collaborate in the development and implementation of community public safety initiatives, right? Next, they are supposed to expand restorative justice and alternative policing strategies and practices in their districts. The district councils also are to build connections between the Chicago Police Department and the community. This includes, but is not limited to, meeting with district commanders to provide input and community oversight and have a say about new Chicago PD initiatives. This will also help encourage the department and the department representatives and members to facilitate access to the community that they serve and protect, and also offer community resources to help better and improve policing in their respective districts. The district councils will also engage with members of the public, including gathering input from the public regarding public safety and policing in the districts. And we're very intentional about that word public. You do not have to be a citizen to participate and attend the meetings. All you have to be is a resident, a member of the public of your respective police district. Just want to make sure that's very well understood. The district councils will build strong connections between the police department and the communities of each district. The district councils will have meetings every month for residents and the police to solve problems together, set priorities together, and build public safety together. The district councils will have open meetings at least once a month, and they will also have quarterly meetings with all of the district councils across the city, and an annual meeting with all the district council members and the members of the commission, right? And the point of those meetings are to track trends, discuss best practices, discuss initiatives, public safety practices, alternative policing strategies, talk about restorative justice practices, etc. So this will be a constant communication effort to improve policing of every district. The district councils will be connected to the commission because they'll be working in tangent. The commission will be overseeing and reviewing police policy, making suggestions of police budgets. The commission will also be reviewing standing orders, general orders, and special orders, as well as practices and protocols of the Chicago Police Department. And if the district councils receive recommendations from the community, they can submit those recommendations for changes to the commission that will be discussed at every annual meeting. Just want to make sure all of that is kind of laid out for you all. The commission also has oversight over the police superintendent's office, over the office of the inspector general, over COPA, and the police board. So the community can make recommendations to the commission through the district councils for the oversight of those agencies. The commission has also created a non-citizens advisory board because we know many members of our immigrant communities and those who are not yet citizens face a unique set of challenges and have often had interactions with the police that have not always been positive, right? So we have an advisory board, the commission has an advisory board to, again, take recommendations from that community to the Chicago Police Department leadership. Next slide. Make sure I got my notes together here. Sorry about that. So in each of the 3 district councils, there are 3 positions that one of each member will have to take on. One will be the chair, and this is the district council member who will be chairing and coordinating the meetings, making sure all the data is being collected, information is being collected, recommendations are being collected, making sure the meetings are run in an efficient and consistent and professional manner, making sure the notices go out on time, the minutes are properly recorded and placed in the public record, etc. And then there's the community engagement role. This member of the district council will focus on the community meetings content, right? And will help facilitate how recommendations, challenges, and issues are put in place to make it up to the local police commanders and the local police department leadership, and also help draft recommendations to become proposals for the commission to consider. And that's the role of the community engagement district council member. The third one is the nominating committee role. And the purpose of this individual of the district council is to be one of the 22 members of the nominating committee, comprised of all district councils from across the city, to recommend the names and individuals who will comprise the permanent commission that will replace this current interim commission. Let me say that again. The nominating committee will be in place because they will have to meet and select the names of individuals who will be recommended to comprise the permanent commission that will take over for the current interim commission. Okay, so that's their job. So there are 3 roles. Each of the roles are equally important. So it's not, even though one's called a chair, they're not the president, they're not an overseer, they're not the boss of the district council. They are just the one who administers how the district council is going to do its business. And then the community engagement is going to collect the information and data, draft recommendations, send them up to the commission. And then the nominating committee member will be a part of the group that has to nominate individuals to comprise the 7-member commission once they've all been established. Next slide, please. My screen is going slow.
So I think this one was me, Damon.
Yeah.
So right now, what our timeline obviously is early voting has started. It starts in the wards, as you know, Max is going to talk about. So we're getting out the vote. And we hope that after Election Day, the district councils will be inaugurated by May of 2023. The new commission selection process completed by November, with the commission appointed by the end of and early in 2024. So we're getting out the vote. Thank you.
Correct. That's us.
Okay, so let's, if we can, there's so much here. And there's so much that you have covered and shared with us. It is such a big change for Chicago and the way that the communities and we potentially can interact and with what's happening with the police. Can you share quickly, Damon and Jackie, what led to this? What's the reason that there is an Empowering Communities for Public Safety Act, and that there's a commission that comes out of that? What led to this?
Well, this has actually been a long struggle, almost a 50-year struggle if you really want to know the true origins of this work, by Frank Chapman and other individuals that he worked with since the murder of Fred Hampton. The idea of a community advisory, some kind of community input over the police department. So that's where the origin was. We're going to jump ahead because we talk about the true history of this, then we will take up everyone else's time. So what happened over the last 3.5, 4 years, momentum had really picked up with the GAPA Coalition and the CPAC Coalition, who both were fighting for police accountability from the community level. And they finally sat down together, hashed it out, negotiated, stuck their necks out, put all the cards on the table, and united to become the ECPS Coalition. And under the ECPS Coalition, they drafted the ordinance that created community-controlled based accountability. And that ordinance created the commission and the district councils. And then we had to fight with the members of city council to get it passed. And we finally got it passed, right? We finally got it passed. And then thus the ordinance was written, it was passed, and that's what created the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability. And that's how we got to where we are today. Is there anything else you want to add, Jackie?
So that was a great, thank you. Gave us a quick idea of where we got and how we got here. What is the authority? So there's a commission and there are the district councils. We'll be electing the district councils, all the voters. What's the relationship between the commission and the district council? And what are the differences in their authority and power?
Oh, sure. Okay. So if a very simplistic way to look at it is, if you were to look at it like the commission, would it be like your U.S. senators, and your district councils would be like your U.S. representatives, right? It's fewer commissioners, fewer senators, and there are more district council members and there are more representatives. The district council members are very localized, have a very localized authority. They have direct input into the district where they serve and the communities of that district. The commission are 7 individuals who represent the entire city of Chicago. And so as information goes back and forth between the two houses, if you will, the district council can make recommendations based on the input from the community to the commissioners, who can then make suggestions on policy changes of general orders or special orders. If there are changes in the leadership of any of the various organizations, like the superintendent, COPA, police board, inspector general's office, the commission will be submitting the names for the administration to select to fulfill those positions, right? And so the community will have input in who those names can be, but the draft comes out of the commission. The commission looks at policies that affect the entire police department, that looks at the entire COPA, that looks at the entire IG's office, and makes recommendations and changes and suggestions at that level. They can do that on their own. The district councils can also make suggestions that the commission needs to take into consideration, and the district councils will also manage, produce, create localized alternative strategies, alternative policing strategies, restorative justice strategies, peace circles, negotiations, events, etc. So the district councils have a very localized authority, and the commission has a citywide authority, but they do talk to each other and work together, developing policies, procedures, and recommendations that will impact all of us and the entire city of Chicago.
Jackie, did you want to put your 2 cents in?
Yeah. When I think of the district councils too, because there are 22 of them, they each represent different parts of the city, and they too come together and talk and will meet. And I think the district councils, the thing I liked about the creation of district councils was it gives people across the city opportunities to share and then be able to take things to the commission that not only help each district, but then can help the city too, as we begin to understand what the needs are across districts. So that I think is important about the local level of what the districts will be able to do.
So you referred to COPA. Can you explain? COPA is another body. Can you explain where COPA fits in within this system? Oh, Damon, you're muted.
So COPA is another agency, civilian oversight that, again, has oversight over the police department, but yet has been proven, how do I say, they investigate incidents of misconduct by the police department. They're an investigative body. And the community has long been frustrated with how long it takes for these investigations to end and they render a judgment. The officers are upset at how long these investigations take, because while officers are under investigation for areas of misconduct or abuse of power, things like that, they are suspended, they are behind a desk. Sometimes their salaries are frozen or their pensions are frozen, etc. And so the community has been very frustrated with the COPA process. And so the commission, CCPSA, I'm sorry, has the authority to give a vote of no confidence in the leadership of COPA, can make suggestions and recommendations to change the policies and procedures of COPA, and also take in the recommendations of the city, of the community, from the residents of the community and the officers of those community to make changes in the way COPA does what it does.
So then, so COPA are the investigators.
Yes.
And over a number of years, as we may remember, very few of the police have been brought to justice at all. And so this is a way for the oversight body to have an impact on COPA. But COPA, does the oversight body has the ability to recommend the head of COPA as well? Is that
Correct.
the case? Yeah. Okay, great.
So what the ordinance says is that the commission will submit a list of names, and then the administration has to select the next COPA chief from that list.
Got it. Great. We had one person who's in our group here asked, so is the commission permanent? Is it sort of like the Supreme Court? So how is the commission not the Supreme Court?
The commission they have staggered terms in office. They have staggered terms in office. So no, they're not there forever.
This is not a lifetime.
It is not a lifetime appointment.
But the commission does have greater powers than the district councils. So the district councils are close to the community, and the commission has greater authority. And how many commissioners are there? 7. And they are, again, that's the result of the nomination by the district councils, and then it makes up the commission. What are the limitations? What do you see as the limitations of the commission, and what are going to be the challenges for CCPSA?
There are two challenges for the CCPSA. The first is, I think, is the most obvious. If the community does not attend the district council meetings and attend the commission meetings and is active in those meetings and in the districts, that is one challenge. That is the biggest challenge that we face, right? The second challenge is the timing. If in the ordinance, for example, if there's a member, if the commission wants to, if the COPA chief needs to be replaced for whatever reason, the commission will submit a list of names. The administration has to pick from those names or can reject all of those names and says, come back and give me some different names. So that back and forth, each level of the back and forth has a 30-day deadline, 30-day deadline. So it takes 30 days. They can take up to 30 days to submit the names. Then the mayor can, the administration can take 30 days to accept or reject those names. Then the commission has another 30 days to submit. So that is going to be the biggest, that is going to be the challenge. That just the amount of time it's going to take possibly if there's a lot of back and forth with the naming and replacing process.
Is there a deadline? Is there an end that process has to be finished with, and the mayor has to appoint from the nominations?
That I am not sure, but I will find out and get that back to you, James. I know it's somewhere in the ordinance. I'm just not sure exactly how it's delineated.
Got it. So what are the public's role? What's our role? What's our power in the process? What's our responsibility?
So
That's a Jackie question. Yes.
and to speak to a little bit, Jane, when you said the limitations of one thing that I think is great about this ordinance is it does create the checks and balances that Damon talked about. And I do know there are some deadlines in there for where the mayor has to respond. I don't want to get into, is it 14 days or 30, because there are all kinds of little details like that. And we will get back on that. But it creates checks and balances. And that was the thing that I was most appreciative of, that it does give community different avenues and pathways to participate. And the community portion is, this ordinance was literally created by hundreds of Chicagoans who sat at tables together, talked about their concerns, the things that they didn't really like about what was happening. And they really reimagined, what does it take to keep Chicagoans safe? And what are the ways that we can work with what we have, make it better, and provide community an opportunity to consistently stay involved? And how do we do that? Damon mentioned earlier, this is an opportunity for people to get to know their district counselors after they've voted for them, to really become a part of the conversations around how do we make sure all of Chicago's neighborhoods are safe. And so this is still that same opportunity we had as we created this ordinance, that same ordinance for people to come across different parts of the city and continuing to engage. So I'm really excited about where do we go from here and continue to build on what we've done so far.
So this is tremendously important. And as your slideshow laid out, the commission has input on budget priorities. It has input on policies. How do the district councils that we're going to be voting for, how do they get their input to the commission relative to these same issues, budgets, policies? How can we, if we go to our meetings, to the district council meetings, is there a real mechanism, a meaningful mechanism, where our voices on policy, on budgets, will be meaningfully acted on?
Well, yes, because as Damon mentioned, the district councils are going to be meeting monthly. They're going to be engaging with community members. So when community members come out, they will be talking about what are the needs of their community. So they will be able to talk a bigger picture about what budget needs there are, what are their needs in their district, and how does that work in the bigger picture. So I think that's one way that the district councils will play a role. And as Damon mentioned, the big role that they play too is that they will be nominating people to serve on the commission, and the commission will be at the table negotiating and talking and asking those hard questions about budget.
So,
let me just chime in
yeah,
with that
please.
real quick, Jane. So the district councils will be inaugurated on May 2nd. In June will be the first quarterly meeting of all the district council members, right? And so, and then we know typically September, October is when the city does its budget, just using the budget as an example. And there'll be another quarterly meeting in in September, October. So the district councils can request a proposed budget as soon as it becomes available, host a special meeting in their district, and just make that entire meeting reviewing the police budget. And then what recommendations does the community have based on that budget? And then my staff, because I do have a team, and there will be a community outreach coordinator assigned to each district. How do you word, phrase, put together recommendations to pass that on to the commissioners, who then will make those recommended policy changes for the budget? That's how that's going to happen. If you want to talk about the budget, that's how that can happen.
And when we talk about policy, what are we talking about? So the commission can recommend policy. They can't change policy. Yeah, they can't implement, but they can recommend it through what process does the commission recommend the policies? And can you just name what are some examples of the policies that the commission could be getting their heads around?
Oh, wow. I don't want to put words in the commission's mouth. So let me just say this. We just finished the commissioner's mouth. They just finished the goal setting part of their job for the superintendent, for COPA, for the police board. And I think they did the IGs. I think they kind of finished them all in December. And so goal setting is not something that's up in the sky. These are things that these various departments have to do annually every year. And so the commissioners review their goal setting, and then they draft goal setting goals as well that these agencies must adhere to and be added into, right? And add into their agency's goals. So they will have to do the same thing for some various policies and procedures. Some general orders of the police department, for example, let's say body cameras maybe, or describing use of force, or they just had one on the criminal enterprise data set, or what's also known as the gang database. How is that being used? Should it be used? How do individuals get removed from that kind of database system? So there are things that the commission can look at, call in to a meeting, the CPD leadership and the various other agencies that have a say-so in those particular areas of an issue, like the gang database or cameras or excessive force, et cetera, how those things are defined, and come out with a goal that everyone can live with.
So this is a big deal.
Yes.
These are very major. One of our members here asked, how are the police reacting to the ordinance and the election?
I don't know. I haven't interviewed all the police officers. My interest right now is just making sure that the elections are done fairly, and everyone who is running for office gets to the offices and everyone gets to vote, and then train the district council members and educate them on what their jobs are. I'm not going to pretend to imagine what the police department feels like or how they're taking it all in. All I know is that I have to build the relationships between the district councils and the police department and make sure that everything works the way it's supposed to work.
And we
thank you,
have,
Jackie. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
we have offered and have had officers come to teach-ins that we've done. So, you know, it's like anything else. Some people are just trying to learn more. There's always going to be people that aren't thrilled. So like Damon said, we just continue to reiterate that this is, you know, we have a historic opportunity here. This is a model that grew out of what we learned in other cities like Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Baltimore. So this wasn't, you know, this is something that can be used to help other cities that face the same issues that led us to this space.
So we have so many questions coming in, and it's terrific. And we're going to have more time on the other end of our program to get some more of our questions in. Let me just get a couple more. One question is, what if our council in our particular district is resistant to having meetings or engaging with the public? You're both muted.
Their meetings are required. So it's not a specific district can't say, oh, we're not going to do that. They are required to have monthly meetings, quarterly, et cetera. So that's not something that's just up to a whim.
Got it,
Correct.
got it.
They
So-
would be in violation of the Opens Meeting Act.
Mhm.
Another question is the commission wants to get rid of the gang database as a tool for the police, but is having a difficult time doing so. Does the commission have the authority to just eliminate it, the gang database?
Unfortunately not. Not just flat out eliminate something, but they do have the authority to recommend changes in how it's used, when it's used, and how individuals should be added and or taken off of the list.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Can members of the interim commission serve on the permanent commission?
Yes.
They can. Okay, great. Are the councils staffed and do they have a budget, the district councils?
The district councils do not have a budget. The district councils have a staff. And that staff will be my department. I'm the deputy director of the district councils. And in my unit of the district councils, I will have 2 project managers, 5 community outreach coordinators, and an administrative assistant. And so that's just in direct contact with the district councils. Also available is our senior policy director and the senior policy and research team to help research things that the district councils may want to work on. And of course, we have a general counsel, an associate general counsel, and an intern general counsel. So we can make sure that what we're doing is legal according to state law and city law, and et cetera. So all of that is at the disposal of the district council.
So Damon, is there a chart that shows, so you're actually within City Hall, your offices, are you reporting to the commission? Are you reporting to the mayor? Are you reporting to both? What is the chain of command here?
Sure. So the direct chain of command is all of the staffers of the CCPSA were hired by our executive director, Adam Gross. The executive director and the staff members all report and work for the commissioners. That is our authority. We do not reply. We are not responsible to the mayor's office. We're not responsible to the superintendent, to COPA, to the police board, to the can't talk anymore, Inspector General's office. The only people we report to are the commissioners.
Great. So before we close out this part, Jackie, Damon, final thoughts on what we need to do, what we who are listening need to do to help ensure this is successful.
The slide says it all.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Vote.
And make
Jackie?
sure you're telling everybody about this new position and about this opportunity to make effective change here in Chicago.
It's great. This has been so enlightening and such a jam-packed session. Again, we're going to have more chance to go at it in a little bit. It's my pleasure to now turn our attention to Max Baver, who is going to help us gather more information about just the voting piece of this. And if I can just introduce Max for a minute. Max is the Director of Public Information for the Chicago Board of Elections. Previously, Max was the Deputy Director of Communications at the ACLU of Illinois and has worked both in city and state government. He lives in Lincoln Square with his 2 cats and rides the Brown Line every day. Max, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Jane, for the kind introduction, and thank you to everybody for this invite for the Chicago Board of Elections. a big thank you to all the many leaders and the many community organizations who made this new municipal office a reality. It is not every day that a new municipal office gets added in Chicago. In fact, it's been over a century. So this next election is going to be historic in that way and in so many other ways too. I have some slides that I'd like to go through briefly so we can get back to the Q&A portion of the evening. But I've got some important voter deadlines and other information that I'd like to share, as well as how voters are going to vote for this office for the first time and other information related to turnout. So if I can go to the next slide, please. Let's go back one more. Thank you. All right, so voter registration. We've got an upcoming deadline for Sunday, February 12th, this Sunday at 11:59 p.m. They change it over at midnight. That's the end of online registration for the Illinois voter registration portal. But we are same-day registration now in Chicago and throughout the state of Illinois. So there is voter registration up to and including on Election Day. So if you're talking to voters or you're talking to anybody else, they've recently moved, or they've changed their name, or they're not even registered to vote. Well, there's no more excuses in Illinois. Same-day registration and voting is available at all of our early voting sites and every single precinct polling place on Election Day. This comes very in handy for voters who may have recently moved over the last few months but didn't update their voter registration ahead of the election, or somebody who just missed those deadlines and still really wants to vote. You just need to have two forms of identification with you. One that's listing your current address. So if you're eligible to vote in Chicago, you can vote. You just need to go in person to any early voting site or a precinct polling place on Election Day, or one of the 51 vote centers that are open on Election Day. What's a vote center? Well, let's go to our next slide. One back, please. There, thank you. So early voting is now open in Chicago. Right now, it's just 2 downtown sites: at our super site at Clark and Lake at 191 North Clark Street, and at our board offices, which I'm at right now downtown, 69 West Washington on our 6th floor. So if you want to get an early start on voting, if you've made up your mind, those 2 early voting sites are open for you. But it's Monday, February 13th. That's the first day for early voting in all 50 wards in Chicago. We've got 1 early voting site in each ward. Those will be open on Monday, right at 9 a.m. And if you want to vote at any of these locations, you can choose any one that's most convenient to you. If you live in the 1st ward and you want to vote in the 50th, if that's closest to you for work or family, you can do so. You do not have to go to the specific ward that you live in to early vote. You can go to any of these locations or the 2 that are still open downtown. Next slide, please. Vote by mail is an increasingly popular option in our city. And in fact, right now, we have nearly 200,000 applications to vote in Chicago. That's the most that we've ever seen for a municipal election. So right now, a lot of that is driving our turnout and our interest in this election right now. But voters don't need an excuse to vote by mail anymore. That was greatly expanded during the pandemic as well. But you can request a vote by mail ballot by going to chicagoelections.gov. It's on our front page. It's a pretty simple online application process. Every vote by mail ballot comes with a postage paid ballot return envelope, and the board sends emails to voters every step of the way: when we've sent your ballot, when we've received it, when it's been officially counted. If you are applying to vote by mail, you'll receive your ballot within about 3 to 5 days. And if you make a mistake in filling out your ballot, you can always request a new one from the board. This is important to note for Chicagoans that are especially getting closer to Election Day if they choose to vote by mail. But if you've never received your ballot in the mail, or it gets damaged some way or the other, you can still vote. We recommend that you go to any early voting site or a precinct polling place on Election Day to report that ballot. And you're just going to sign a form, and they're going to let you vote at that location. You can also change your mind. If you get your vote by mail ballot in the mail and you want to vote in person instead, or that's not going to work out for you, just bring that with you to either an early voting site or your precinct polling place, give it over to election judge, and they're going to let you vote on the spot. Next slide, please. These are upcoming deadlines. So the last day for applications is February 23rd. So it's only 5 days before Election Day, although we recommend greatly, if you're planning to vote by mail, do so now. Give yourself plenty of time to get that ballot, to fill it out, and then return it. February 28th, which is Election Day, that's the last day that a postmark, that postmark needs to be on your vote by mail ballot. What does a postmark mean? Well, it is when it's actually received by the USPS. Just putting your vote by mail ballot into a blue USPS box, or putting it into your own return box doesn't ensure that it's going to get postmarked on time. So if you are getting closer to Election Day, we recommend taking that directly into your post office and asking for a postmark, or returning it to a secure drop box, which is an upcoming slide too. And then March 14th, that's the last day that we can accept in counting properly received vote by mail ballots. So it's nearly almost 2 weeks after Election Day when we stop getting those. It's usually just a few days after Election Day where a majority of those are coming in, but we expect that on election night there's still going to be a lot of vote by mail ballots to count over the next coming days. So we expect a lot of those races that might be dominated by vote by mail. We'll continue to look at those numbers even after election night. Next slide, please. Secure drop boxes. So this came around in the pandemic too, and is an increasingly popular option with voters. But if you have a vote by mail ballot, and especially if you're getting closer to Election Day, we recommend using one of the secure drop box sites. It's just a box that's either watched by camera or watched by security, and it's emptied by the Board of Elections every day so that it can be counted and then received, and those ballots received by the board. But right now we've got 2 open at our downtown early voting sites. And then we're going to have the rest of those sites open at the 50 wards starting on Monday. All of those will be open until 7 p.m. exactly on election night. So the rest of the hours of when those are open are on this slide, also on chicagoelections.gov. But big convenience for voters, especially as we're getting close to Election Day, to turn that in, and ensures that your ballot will be accepted by the board that very night. Next slide, please. So voting on Election Day. Still a very popular, if not the most popular way to vote with Chicagoans. In fact, the last 2 election cycles, 50% of voters still wait for Election Day to vote in person. But all voters who want to vote on Election Day in person can go to their assigned precinct polling place on Election Day. To find your assigned precinct polling place, go to chicagoelections.gov, go to the Your Voter Information page, or you can give us a call and we can look it up for you. All voters are going to get a mailer in the mail next week too that tells them about their closest early voting sites and also their assigned precinct polling place on Election Day. If you are planning to vote at one of your local polling places, you must go to your assigned polling place. That's why we ask people to check ahead of time. This is why we send out that mailer. You can't go to just any neighborhood location. You have to go to your assigned. Otherwise, you will be turned away or be forced to vote a provisional ballot. And that's not necessary if you can avoid it. However, another convenience for voters that's been added since the pandemic, but all of our early voting sites, 51 of our early voting sites are also going to be open as vote centers on Election Day. Difference being that it's not early voting anymore, but those same sites, nothing's changed. They've just switched over to being Election Day sites for that day. So that's going to be all 50 ward sites and our super site downtown at Clark and Lake. But all of them are going to be open on Election Day, same hours, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And any voter can use any of those sites no matter where they live. So this is the one that's still flexible. So if you are waiting till Election Day and you can't make it to your local neighborhood polling place, go to one of these sites, go to the one closest to work, go to the one closest to where you're at. You can use one of those sites on Election Day and your vote's going to be counted. Next slide, please. Thank you. So voter assistance and voters with disabilities. Election judges can't help a voter fill out their ballot, but there's many ways that voters who need assistance can vote. Every early voting site and every precinct polling place in Chicago comes with accessible voting equipment and audio ballots in 12 languages. Let me see if I can rattle these off real quick. English, Spanish, Chinese, Hindi, Polish, Korean, Tagalog, Arabic, Russian, Ukrainian, Gujarati, and Urdu. Okay, I did remember. Those are all available on the touchscreens, and there's one touchscreen in every precinct polling place, and every early voting location is only touchscreens. And even though that it is a touchscreen, it is still a paper ballot. You use basically what is a big iPad to make all of your choices, and then it will print out your paper ballot at the end for you to turn in to an election judge to be inserted and to be counted. Voters can also use our vote by mail program for any reason, but we also have an accessible vote by mail program, which allows voters who have low vision or blind voters to use an online marking program to independently access and mark their ballots through that system. However, it's not website voting. It still does need to be printed out and still be returned to the board. Always have that paper ballot. But that's an option for voters too, that will allow more independent access and use with other screen readers, including JAWS. It's an option on our online vote by mail application, but voters who are interested in that can also reach out directly to the board. Before Election Day, and right now, we recommend that everybody check out your voter information and check your candidates ahead of time. Both of these things are available at chicagoelections.gov right now. You can access your voter information by inputting your address as well as your last name. That's going to bring up your voter information, all of your current elected officials, your assigned precinct polling place, your closest early voting site, your vote by mail status, whether if you've choosing to vote by mail. We will give wherever the status of your ballot is. And then we also have sample ballots. So this is for your specific ward and your specific precinct. Specifically for the new police district councils, they are not based off a ward, they're not based off a precinct, they're based off a police district, which do cross a lot of those lines. So we recommend, please go check out your specimen ballot ahead of time so you can see who's running, not just for mayor, but in your local ward race, as well as your local police district race. So how do we vote for these new police district council members? So it's going to be the 5th choice on this ballot for the upcoming election. It is the last question on the ballot for most voters, unless those voters have a local non-binding referendum question, but it is the last municipal office that's going to be listed on that ballot. It's one ballot this time. The last November election had 2 ballots, and we all know that second page is a long, long list of retention judges as well as other offices. So this one's a little easier for voters that it's all on one page, a lot less offices to vote for. That's what makes these new police district councils important, more important than ever to take a look at beforehand, because this is the first time that they're appearing. Voters are asked to vote for no more than 3 candidates within each police district. So they vote up to 3. Voters don't have to vote for all 3. Any vote for any candidate is going to count for that candidate. So a voter can choose 1 or 2. Obviously, we recommend, if you're comfortable and you've got candidates that you support, vote for those 3, because those top 3 vote getters in the district are going to win that office. And since we're heading into the February 28th election, might as well start talking about the next election that's directly after this, but there is the municipal runoff election, the supplementary election that's going to take place on April 4th. That happens when that contains the candidates that did not receive more than 50% of the vote, 50% plus 1, for the offices of mayor, clerk, treasurer, and alderperson. However, no PDC candidates move on to this runoff election. There is nothing that is based off of getting more than 50% of the vote. It is going to be the top 3 vote getters. So this is your one chance to vote for this office. So comparatively to if you're talking to voters or you're talking to people on the street that say, you know what, I want to wait for the April election. I don't want to my choices now. I want to see who makes it to the top 2 for mayor, makes it to the top 2 for alderperson. That means that they're not going to be able to vote on this new police district council. And it's very important that they do. So that is one of the main reasons it's important to communicate to people you're talking to. This is your chance, your one chance to vote for these police district council candidates. And just my last slide, taking a look at the last few municipal turnouts. Unfortunately, it's the lowest turnout that we see for city elections. The average for the last 3 midterms was 46%. The average for the last 3 municipal elections has been 36%. Right now, the way that we're looking at early votes and vote by mail ballots coming in, we're relatively close to 2019. We don't see anything that's a huge surge at this point. However, some of that is just normal. People make up their mind much later when it comes to municipal races. It's a much shorter campaign season. It's a nonpartisan race too, so people aren't voting for parties or parties that they're comfortable with. So there's a lot that can happen still in this next 3 weeks. We know a lot of voters are going to be waiting to see what happens with those candidates, see if somebody sticks their foot in their mouth, or something else happens. So we are expecting a lot of people to start showing up right before the election, and then also on election day. But this is where we want to let people know of all the early voting and vote by mail options, because lines start to form in early voting sites the days leading up to the election. And then there are lines on election day too. So if you want to get your civic duty out of the way, you've made up your mind, you've got your early voting and your vote by mail options. If you're waiting a little bit later into the process, just make sure make a plan to vote where you're going to on election day. And in some cases, just give yourself enough time to be able to vote on election day too.
Wow.
Thank you, Jane.
A lot of,
Yeah.
Thank you, Max. So much information. And I think one of the points you just made is for us to make sure to let people know, if you want to vote on the district councils, you have to vote February 28th. That's your shot. That's your only shot. So don't wait for the runoff. A mayoral election, so important. I'm going to ask you one question, and then we're going to go to the whole panel, and we'll have at you with some other questions too. So some of the districts have only 2 candidates. The districts get 3 district council members. What happens there is the third district council member appointed by the mayor. I'm going to roll a couple of questions together. If it is appointed by the mayor, does the mayor have a limited amount of time to select the third district council person? What's the process that happens in those few districts where there are only 2 candidates?
I'm happy to address something real quick about another unique thing that's going to happen this election before kicking back over to Damon and the team here on the appointment process and in that. But you are correct. We have 4 races right now in the 1st, the 5th, the 6th, and the, oh boy, I had it in my head. I think it's the 15th. Yes. 14th. I'm sorry. So it's the 1st, the 5th, the 6th, and the 14th police districts currently only have 2 candidates on the ballot. However, you'll see in the 5th, the 6th, and the 14th district, currently there is a space on our candidate list on our website at Chicago Election that lists write-in. That means that there are qualified write-in candidates for that office. So what we might see in the 5th, the 6th, and the 14th districts is that a write-in candidate, as long as they've got more than 1 vote, the majority vote in a for that, actually win that seat. That would be the first time that ever happens in Chicago history, that a write-in candidate's won a municipal office. Unfortunately, another quirk of election law is we don't release a public list of qualified write-in candidates until the week right before the election. So I don't have anything to share with anybody right now publicly about all those write-in candidates. It's just the way the election code is written. There's a deadline on February 22nd is the last that candidates can apply to be a write-in candidate by signing a declaration form that's notarized. That deadline is just for candidates who got kicked off the ballot as part of this last electoral board process. But that's when the deadline is. Once that passes, once we get that finalized, there will be that list on our website for people at chicagoelections.gov on several of our pages. But I just want to say before I hand this back over to Damon and the team, if you are in the 5th or the 6th or the 14th police districts and you run into a candidate who says they are a write-in candidate, I would say hear them out. Talk to them, because that's somebody who might end up serving on the PDC council.
So quickly, that's really helpful. Does the mayor then select, have a role in selecting where the districts don't have a write-in candidate and there is no third person on the ballot?
Short answer to that is yes, Jane, but let me just go back for 1 minute before I answer that question. and I want to make sure people understand this, and Max and the Board of Elections have been very clear about this. They have to be a certified write-in candidate. Someone cannot just say they are a write-in candidate. They have to be a certified write-in candidate in order to receive a vote on the write-in ballot, on the write-in line on their ballot. So please make sure you find that out in those last 3 districts. In terms of the 1st district, which is the only place where this is happening, where there are only 2 candidates who are running for the office, and there are no write-in candidates at all whatsoever. Once those 2 individuals are elected and inaugurated on May 2nd, that creates a vacancy for that position. Once that vacancy has been created, those 2 individuals in the 1st district will create a list of names of individuals who are qualified to be a district council member and submit that list of names, I believe it's 7 or 14, to the commission. The commissioners then review that list and approve of 3 names. Then they submit that list of 3 names to the administration. And the only reason, let me be very clear, the only reason I keep saying the administration is because the district council's inauguration day is May 2nd. And the inauguration day for the administration, the treasurer, the clerk is May 12th, right? So I just want to make sure no one misinterprets what I'm saying. So I'm just saying the administration. So the administration is in place. By the time they get those 3 names, they will have to select from one of those 3 names.
Got it. Thank you very much. So Max, thank you. Damon, Jackie, can you join us back? We have about 10 minutes where we can ask questions. I want to encourage our audience participants to send us questions, but I have a few that I want to that have been sent. Let me just share them with you. What is the role of the police union? And does it have any responsibility or any authority to enforce recommendations made by the commission? So the role of the police, the role of the FOP, the role of the Fraternal Order of Police in
Correct.
this whole picture.
They have no influence in this process at all. The only authority the FOP has is to represent its members in writing the police contract and negotiations with the city of Chicago.
And so the follow-up, I guess the obvious follow-up is, can they obstruct recommendations made by the commission?
As far as I believe, no, because they have no input.
Okay, thank you.
And you know,
Jackie.
Jane, I think to that point too, clearly, you know, the union is best represented. The commission is, it really bothers me sometimes that the implication is somehow that the police union shouldn't be on board with this or should be obstructionist. And I would hope that they would seriously look at this as an effort to make the department better. You know, there's no doubt there's a history of problems, and this ordinance, you know, this ordinance is not something they should seek to obstruct. So
By its nature, this ordinance can help everybody. And by that, all of the police officers. Another question on a very different topic. What do you mean by restorative justice? You've had that in your slides and a reference to restorative justice as a model. How does it fit into the work, or how could it fit into the work of the district councils?
Jackie, you want to start that one, or you? Okay.
yeah, I can. So part of the work that the district councils will be doing is bringing ideas and bringing solutions from their communities that they're out talking to, and looking at ways to hopefully create less punitive consequences and creating things that they can do in their communities to reduce recidivism and all kinds of things. So that's where restorative practices come in, looking at ways to use other ways of restoring as opposed to just incarceration and et cetera.
So the district councils could really be a place that give birth to many creative and innovative ideas.
Yes.
And that's
the
yeah.
alternatives that we frequently talk about.
So that's exciting. And that's some of the kinds of things that can happen and that will happen, hopefully, and with the district council. The commission has a role in the selection of the police superintendent. Can you talk a bit about that? And is there any place within that for the district councils to make recommendations?
Yes and yes. So the commission, the way this ordinance is written, and this is why the CCPSA is such an important opportunity for the community to understand. Again, as I said earlier, we do not report to the mayor, the superintendent, or any of the other agencies that impact law enforcement or public safety here in the city. The mayor, the administration, will have to select the next superintendent from a list of candidates provided by the commission. Let that sink in. The administration will have to select the next superintendent from a list of candidates provided by the commission. The district councils, if they have recommendations or ideas or qualities or qualifications that they want in the next superintendent, they should bring that to their district councils. The district councils will put that in the correct format as a recommendation for the commissions to consider and add to the qualifications that they're looking for in the next superintendent.
So in a previous iteration of the selection of a police superintendent, there has been a history of nominations going to the mayor rejecting, and it going on and on. Is there a deadline that the mayor has to adhere to in this process?
There is a deadline, and there is, at some point, there has to be a resolution. And because at that point, the city council gets involved, and then they will help finalize the decision for the next superintendent.
Great. Another question, can the CCPSA, well, it's one of the areas that you lifted up was that the CCPSA can require the collection of data. So what is that? What type of data are we talking about, and why is that important? And how does that shift what's been able to happen in the past?
Well, because the commissioners represent the entire city, the district councils represent each district. And what we have to understand, what the district council members have to understand, and of course, the community definitely already understands, how policing is done and public safety is done and applied in one district will be different than how it's done in another district. That is okay, right? So the data that will be collected, for example, if data is asked from the DCs, the district councils, the ethnicities, genders of individuals pulled over and given tickets, right? What does that look like comparatively from one district to another? Is there a reason why there's such a discrepancy? What was the age and gender and ethnicity of the officers who pulled these individuals over, right? All of that could be data that could be used to influence how policies and recommendations are written.
So again, the commission in many of its responsibilities and authorities has ability to recommend. Is this a case where the commission can actually require data to be gathered?
Yes.
So that's pretty significant. We just
As
have
can the district councils.
Yes. Good. you all are lifting up. This is pretty complicated and significant new entities. So this is really helpful in clarifying. We don't have a lot of time. With one more other question. Can members of the Fraternal Order of Police serve on the district council?
Not in this go round. The way the ordinance is written, individuals have to be, they cannot be affiliated with the police department, city government, any of the agencies of doing accountability work. Currently, they have to be retired for at least, I think it's 3 or 5 years. I can't remember because we've gone through a couple of iterations of this. But no, they cannot serve until they've been removed from those processes for a number of years. Members of the Fraternal Order of Police, if they are retired officers, then yes. Again, this is democracy. So democracy says everyone who was a qualified individual has the right to serve. But we did put in some guardrails to make sure that they couldn't retire in January and then serve on the district councils in May. That can't happen. They have to be separated from the police department for a certain number of years before they can apply to run for a district council. And that's permanent.
Yeah, great. So one other, yeah, Jackie, please.
And to that question, we do know that there are former officers that are running. So, but again, those requirements are there, but to the person that answered that question, there are people that have been members of law enforcement that are running in some districts.
Got it. A final question before a general question. You mentioned the Non-Citizen Advisory Council. How is that being constituted? What's the process and what are its powers and responsibilities?
So they have already been selected and are beginning to serve on the commission level. They talk directly to the commissioners. And so what their job is to bring and lift up the struggles, challenges, and opportunities for change and improvements to the commissioners to make recommendations on how these individuals are served and protected by our police department. Right. So just little things like, I mean, Max rattled off what, 12 languages, right? That ballots have to be in. So are we now going to require, for example, all of our officers go through maybe a language training course, maybe not master all 12 languages that Max mentioned, but so things like that need to be lifted up as we're going forward. Individuals who are hearing impaired or disabled, et cetera. I mean, and we all know about the number of immigrants who have been shipped to Chicago who are now in the city. How will we protect them and serve them as well, right? So those are the kind of issues that the Non-Citizen Advisory Board are lifting up and bringing to the commission.
Thank you. Thank you. That's incredibly important and an enormous shift in access. So for each of you, one minute, if you could each tell our audience, our participants who are here, one thing about the importance of their votes for the regarding the district police council positions. What would that be? If you could say there's one thing that's important as a result of their votes, what is it? Jackie, let me start with you.
Just that forward momentum really depends on Chicago's voters at this point. Like Max already mentioned, we're only getting one chance to vote on this particular position of district council. So runoffs won't matter here. So please, coming out to vote is important. And it's, this is not new. ECPS, this ordinance is something that we've been fighting for decades, and we've really been fighting for as a citywide coalition for the last 5 years. So I hope that everyone will come out and vote and stay involved.
Thank you, Jackie. Max, one thing.
I might have to go the cheesy route, but it is your vote matters. Your vote counts. And in a low turnout election like we have for the last few cycles, around 36%, especially in ward by ward results and an entirely new district that a lot of people are still figuring out. A lot of these races might come down to a handful of votes, single digits amount of votes. So your vote is more important than ever in this upcoming election because it might be the deciding factor for many of these offices.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Max. Damon, you have the last word on this.
Oh, wow. Vote. Between now and February 28th, vote. Bring your teenagers to vote. Bring your senior citizens to vote. Stop by nursing homes and hospitals and schools and universities and your neighbors. Vote, especially for these district council positions, because policing and public safety does impact all of us. And we want to be able to be safe in our communities and make our communities stronger and better. So please vote. Please vote. Please vote.
I want to thank you all. This has been tremendous. You've given us so much information and inspiration. I want to thank you too, Jackie, Damon, Max, for what you're doing in making this happen and in this tremendous opportunity and potential change. And it's a change if we all help make it a change. So again, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
And with this, I'm going to turn back to Mary for some action items. So please hang with us just a few more minutes for some more information and for some resources that will help us. Thank you all.
Wow. I mean, I'm fired up even more. Thank you so much. So I'm supposed to do this thing called call to action. And the first thing I would suggest is that we take this presentation and we share it on all of our social media networks and we tag everybody. I mean, there was so much information presented by the panels. It's like, let's just share it. Let's share it. And of course, you've got orgs out there that have resource guides that help you walk through, but there's nothing like being able to sit and listen and hear and really feel the passion coming off the screen about how historic this democratic process is and is right in the palm of every voter's hand. So I would say that's what we do. Of course, learn more about the candidates and, as Mr. Bever said, make a plan and vote. But be an ambassador by having your neighbors know the importance of the ECPS elections that are coming up. But I say, let's just share this video. Let's tag everybody. I'm ready. As soon as I get it, just tag everybody because, I mean, it speaks volumes at this point. And again, I want to just thank Promote the Vote, all of the partners that work together to put this forum together tonight. You've done well. And, you know, it is because of actions and commitments such as this that we will continue that forward progress movement that Ms. Baldwin spoke of. Thank you. And I'm not sure if I say goodnight or do I turn it back to someone else? Maybe I do say goodnight. And thank you again on YouTube for watching us. Have a nice evening.